You can submit further questioning in writing.
Well, I just want to point out that the total Department of Education is a couple of $100 billion, and she's talking about 1% of a little bit.
Again,
We're trying to balance, and we're trying to balance.
Gentlemen's
the
time has
budget.
expired, and the problem is it's now my time, so you're encroaching upon me, and that I can't allow that. And I appreciate that observation of the 30%. I mean, and as Ms. Grenzler pointed out earlier, on the Medicaid dollars that are just being spent, crank continues to turn, the dollars continue to go out the door at an interest rate that is now higher than what it was 2.5 years ago. Mr. Gupta, the interest rate, and Mr. Scott was asking about the interest rate. The interest rate has what over the last 2.5 years?
Due to the Federal Reserve actions has risen significantly.
Yes, and the Federal Reserve action was in response to what, Mr. Abel?
Inflation.
Well, and as a result of federal spending.
Spending, oh yeah.
Which is what we're here talking about today. Look, and I know this ground has all been covered extensively. I did want to ask Ms. Grenzler, we're right at the end of the public health emergency, thank God. It's going to end midnight tonight. A figure that I'm hearing is that 18 million people will lose Medicaid tomorrow morning. Is that accurate?
I haven't seen that, and I don't know any reason why they would lose their coverage.
Yeah, and that's just it. These numbers get inflated and socialized, they're repeated until they're just now derived as fact when, as you've pointed out on several occasions this morning, that the purported cuts to veterans, for example, purported cuts to other healthcare programs, in fact, are not what has been included in the Limit, Save, and Grow Act. Is that correct?
Correct. There are no specific cuts to these, but if you do want to drill down to getting at protecting veterans, you can absolutely protect veterans, and you don't have to have any cuts, and you can actually still save money because 11% of all the payments that are coming out of the VA are improper payments. One of their programs has an 80% improper payment rate. You're paying 5 times as much for long-term care services as veterans as you need to be. So you can save money and still provide quality care.
And every dollar that's not well spent in the program deprives some other veteran of a service that they may need or increases their time on a waiting list. Is that not correct?
Correct.
Mr. Abel, let me ask you a question. Title 42 is in all the news. There's a different Title 42. In the HHS had developed a different payment rate for some of their scientists. The special pay authority, originally given by Congress to the Department of Health and Human Services, but EPA also used to be a part of the Department of Health and Human Services, so they've sort of continued that special pay authority that they have under the Public Health Service Act. Are you aware of this special pay authority that the EPA possesses?
Representative Burgess, I am vaguely aware of it, but I don't think I can offer any expert advice on it.
But suffice it to say, it was a special pay authority that was thought to be necessary to attract scientists to HHS when EPA was split off as a separate agency. You don't need special pay authority for, say, a beginning chemist in a lab at the EPA. We're looking at a time where every tax dollar that's spent should come under scrutiny. Something I've worked on for several years is to get rescission of that special pay authority for the Environmental Protection Agency. And unfortunately, as we've learned now coming through the coronavirus emergency, some of that special pay authority was going to some of our very highly paid NIH scientists. And I think in retrospect, you'd have to ask yourself, were those dollars well spent? And that's still an open question, but I don't think you convince the American taxpayer that they would want to continue that. On the other component of improper payments, Ms. Grensler, I would stress an improper payment does not necessarily mean fraudulent. It simply can be a payment that was submitted that wasn't entirely accurate. But Medicaid stands out as one of those where the improper payment rate is strikingly above the overall average of improper payments in the federal government. Is that not correct?
That's correct. An improper payment is a payment made to the wrong person or in the wrong amount. About 95% of those are all overpayments. Medicaid is most problematic, I would say, because it is administered by a state agency. They often aren't checking the eligibility for them. And also, it's just an incredibly complicated program, and the healthcare market is distorted by it being largely funded through the government. So there's a whole host of things feeding into that improper payment rate.
Thank you very much. My time has expired. I'm supposed to recognize any Democrat. I do see. Recognize Ms. Jackson Lee from Texas for 5 minutes.